I think it's important for me to tell you that I fixed the TRIMUI brick. I know the TRIMUI brick has a big following, but when it first arrived, I wasn't super impressed. Also, this is a brightness test and it is okay. This is the world's worst Game Boy Color game. Also, LITNXT sent me some things, a customized SD card and this lovely pouch, and they sent me a custom kit for the TRIMUI brick. So today we're going to take another look at it and also at the end compare it to the Miyoo Mini, see if it beats the Miyoo Mini as my favorite handheld for retro gaming of all time. People like to call me the savior of retro gaming or like the second coming of Darkwing Duck, but all I really am is a servant of this retro gaming community. So let's talk about the customization that I did to this thing. LITNXT reached out to me and said, what would you like to do? We can do laser etching on the back. And obviously, immediately, I thought of something. What could it have been? And so I sent them the Darkwing Duck logo. I decided on a few colors, and we'll talk about my choices now because I do think I made some mistakes. But you can do this yourself and you can save your TRIMUI brick as well. The other thing is the Sir Wish card that they sent me. That fixed a lot of the little niggles and issues that you might have with this. Obviously, there are fixes apart from, you know, getting a custom card, but if you just want to throw money at the issue, the Sir Wish card definitely is an option. And if you haven't bought a TRIMUI brick yet, consider LITNXT. They include shipping globally, and that's one of the reasons why I like to support them. So have a look at that, and then you can get all this custom stuff done. So we're going to talk about it. So watching this, you're thinking, how did he get such a cool mug for his rooibos tea? You're also thinking, how am I so physically attracted to someone when all I can see is their hands? But apart from that, you're also thinking, can't I do this? Custom buttons, laser etching. Can't I get it done myself? Can't I kind of take control of the whole process? And the truth of the matter is, you can. Companies like this use companies like PCBWay to develop this sort of thing and to get this sort of thing done, to subcontract to get this sort of thing done. So you can reach out to PCBWay and you can get a quotation on their website to have this sort of thing done. You know, do your AutoCAD or whatever you do to get these things done, send your specs to PCBWay and they can give you a quote on having this done. Maybe you want to make it locally in your country and sell it. PCBWay are the people to go to develop that project, to do the prototypes and to get it done in the end. So check out their websites. Also check out their shared projects page. Very handy to find people who have maybe gone before you and done a similar thing, and then you can just tweak their project. Check out their website, very helpful, very handy, PCBWay. Now, let's quickly talk about these buttons and the way that they were designed. So I talked about how some of them were broken and like behind the scenes here, it's a little bit rough around the edges, but the actual molding of these buttons is actually really good. So good on LITNXT, whoever they're using to make these for them. The logo on the menu button, you've got the select and play icons on here. The A, B, X, Y are all embossed into the plastic. You've got the logo on the D-pad. It's very well done. It's a high quality set of buttons. And to talk about my color choices, so I went for a Darkwing Duck theme, and I said, okay, so let me just switch Darkwing Duck off here. I put yellow buttons there, not thinking that this is where the light comes out. And I should have thought of that, and I should have maybe made these yellow, because now these, whenever a light shines through, they go a weird color. So that was a terrible choice. I should have just made these clear or black. I might put the original ones on because they are clear. I'm not sure what I should have done. Let me know what you think I should. I think I should have made this purple, the power button, or maybe made the power button yellow. Anyway, it was a poor choice on my part, and I regret it. But other than that, I think it's a great Darkwing Duck theme, and it is definitely a collector's item for me now. I would grade this at medium to hard difficulty because of there's wires that can get crimped. There's a big ribbon cable connected to the screen that you have to be very careful of pulling. There's heat transfer tape that you have to keep in place. There's a few things that make it a little bit more technical than just simply, you know, replacing a little thing. So the back plate is actually the easiest. the buttons is the most difficult, and let's talk about that. So when I received it, these buttons in the front here have got a connector that connects them all. That broke in the post, and so I had to super glue that together. So I laid it flat on a rubber surface that I use for like working on my drones, laid it flat and then dabbed some super glue on the joint and then left it, and then had to cut it off the mat once I was done. So that's how I super glued that. And then the power button just didn't have the little loop that links it to the side to keep it in place. But fortunately, it's a pretty snug position, and so that power button is not going anywhere, and it seems to be working fine. I also tried out the shoulder buttons, the translucent shoulder buttons. You'll see that the black ones are back, so I just didn't like it. I like these inline ones, not the jagged ones that they've provided, the ones that come stock with it. So I don't know. I don't like having see-through buttons that let out more light when I already feel like there's too many LEDs on this device. Another thing that adds to the difficulty is needing to line up these ports along with all the buttons. So especially when you're putting the PC board back, trying to make sure that all the buttons are in place, like the volume buttons over here is kept like moving slightly. So you need to make sure that those digital buttons inside here are lined up. There's a slider button for this slider over here. You've got to get all that lined up. At the same time, you've got to get the headphone port lined up, the USB port, you've got to get it all in there, and it's got to come in at an angle, not at an angle, you've got to slide it in a little bit. So it's quite a little bit of a balancing act, and at the same time, make sure that none of the wires are being crimped, and at the same time, make sure my one speaker kept popping out, and so it was blocking the way. So I had to make sure that speaker was in correctly. There's a lot of moving parts, and that's what makes it so difficult. And my big tip to you, if you do this, is just keep checking, just keep swimming. Every time you make a change, so for instance, you'll see me in the top-down video, place the buttons, put the PC board back, and then with all the guts kind of hanging out, I'll turn it over, power it on, make sure it's working. Even before I powered it on, I made sure the buttons were working. Then I turned it around, double checked everything, made sure wires aren't crimping. Then I screwed the PC board back. Then I plugged the power button in. Then I did a power check, made sure the buttons are working again, and then started closing it up. Then there were a few little issues, made sure it was closed nicely, and then that was done. Because now the back plate has got a little bit of a method to it, and so you've got to follow that method, and then once that in, it's fine. Once that was in, I actually had a problem with my shoulder buttons. I had to unscrew it and screw it back. I have absolutely no idea what was blocking it, but eventually I got it sorted out, so got that fixed. The thermal tape is very important. So I realized that the reason this is a metal backplate, it's a heat sink. So I'm not sure why such a low-end device heats up as much as it does, but once you've closed it and you're running it and this thing heats up, you know that you've done it correctly, because that thermal tape, that thick thermal tape, needs to make contact with the CPU inside and this backplate, this metal backplate, to dissipate heat. And that's why there's a metal plate, is to dissipate the heat. And so it does heat up a lot, but it's doing its job. And so it's a nice little winter warmer for your hands. And then I do want to reiterate, when you're closing it, I'll show some footage of me using that little guitar pick to push the wires and make sure that they aren't being crimped. I opened it up again, closed it again, just to make sure that those wires aren't getting crimped, because if they get crimped, you're screwed. Okay, so let's quickly talk about this Surwish card, the TRIMUI brick in general, and why I have some mixed feelings about it. I have mixed feelings because I am emotionally unstable, but apart from that is because the operating system, like the TRIMUI operating system, is really trying to create a unified system, and it's nice. It's a nice operating system, but CrossMix really brings in a lot of performance improvements and tweaks and things. And so CrossMix definitely is an improvement, but I find it very bitty. For instance, I really enjoy 10 levels. The guy that brought us, can't remember the name of the operating system for the Miyoo A30, but he brought that to the table, and he just designs a user interface really well. But there's obviously limitations within the system that doesn't allow him to change certain icons. So the menu The main, like the tools menu or the system menu or the options menu is really nice. You can see what he was trying to do. And as soon as you go to the next menu, it looks ugly. So it's not a very unified system. And I don't like that about it because it's such a well-designed device. The outside is beautiful and it's got this solid feeling to it, like a very serious feeling to it. And I feel like the operating system needs to follow suit. I really wish that the guys at CrossMix would just allow for a very plain theme. That's my request to you guys. If you can make like a plain theme on here, it really would. It would take this from being me having mixed feelings to me having less mixed feelings. Now let's talk about the LEDs because I hate the LEDs. I gotta say, like, I would like it just to burn at a very dim white. That's all I want. I don't want it to have different colors on different LEDs at different times. It is just, I don't know why I hate it so much, but it drives me up the bend. Well, actually, I do know why it bugs me so much. It's because this is such a clean design, such a clean look and design, and then the colors go and jump all over the place, and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't flow with the theme and look of the device. If they are really bugging me, I can switch them off, and so I have set this button to turn them off, but then I lose all of it, and then I've got this white stripe for no apparent reason. So switch it on, switch it off, switch it on, switch it off. So, you know, it's kind of like a mixed bag of tricks there with the LEDs. Let's talk about the reason why this is probably the best everyday carry on the market right now. So it's slow, but it auto resumes to exactly where you were. So you can power the device down and it will auto resume to where you were. See, that's where things kind of start to make sense. Because I've made the buttons purple here, it's matching the purple on that screen with the lights over here. That's kind of cool. But you can't, you know what I mean? Like, I can't match the buttons every time I play a different game. So maybe with black buttons, you see, if we could just tweak those LEDs. Anyway, I digress. So the auto resume is the feature. It's the reason why I like Garlic OS so much on the Miyoo Mini. And it's a feature that if a developer can implement it on a device, it just like rescues the whole thing. So I'm really glad that CrossMix have that. And like I say, I think, and we'll get to the versus the Miyoo Mini at the end, I think this is the everyday carry of the year so far. A little gripe I have with the UI, not the UI, the way that the buttons are laid out, is that the menu button is there. That's something that, like, I just can't get used to playing with this device, is having a menu button there and start and select there. Over time, if I play this for like consistently for a few months, I probably will get used to it. But the menu button should have just been there. Like, these shortcut buttons, I've set this one, I think, to brightness and the other one to switch the LEDs off and on. Should have just had the menu there. Yeah, I just feel like the menu should have been there, so that start and select is just normal, like over there. And that brings me on to my other point, is I don't think there should ever have been a CPU selection option. This has caused confusion from the first TRIMUI Smart Pro, where they first implemented this concept where you can switch the power level, the amount of power being sent to the CPU. And it affected Russ from Retro Game Core in the very first review that he did. He didn't know that it was on. So the switch was down or something, and so it was in low power mode. And he did it in his entire review and said, well, the power's not very good. And people slated him for it. But the thing is, I did it again when this thing arrived, and I used it and I was like, it's not performing properly. And then I realized one of the buttons was mapped to CPU performance, and I had to put the CPU up, and suddenly the thing worked better. And I've seen people online go, oh, the thing's not working, it's not very powerful. And then they just had the CPU set incorrectly. So I feel like that option should never have been a feature in the operating system. I just set the CPU to a certain level and leave it. And then the controls. The controls are effing fantastic. These are excellent, 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 excellent controls. They are dome switches, and there aren't a lot of retro gaming devices with dome switches. Retroid do a dome switch D-pad, and it's one of my favorite D-pads because it's nice and accurate. This is lovely, and you've got these low profile action buttons, and so it doesn't have a retro feel, but so sometimes what we want is a modern take on old stuff. And this definitely is that. This is like a serious Miyoo Mini. It's like a businessman's Miyoo Mini that I put purple buttons on. The feeling in hand is superb. The only tiny gripe I have is these screw holes have not been chamfered, and so they are sharp. So where your fingers sit is exactly where the screw holes are. It would have had such a premium feeling if there was nothing there, because this is a very nice ribbed rear end, and so very nice to hold. It's got a nice heft to it, which I like. It makes it feel like a more serious device compared to the Miyoo Mini. A lovely feeling in hand with a lovely matte plastic that is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. So I keep wiping this front area because I keep getting oily marks on it. Have I mentioned that there are too many LEDs? See, as long as I play Darkwing Duck, the colors of the LEDs are perfect. Now that I've dismantled this thing, I noticed they went for this nice, and here is the thing. That's why I say the design is really well thought out. A lovely design, with their logo inset there, the logo in the D-pad. It's really well thought out. These sound holes are tiny, and there's fairly large speakers behind it. And I think the audio could have been a lot better had they just made this a little bit more open. Now, in my review, I compared this to the Miyoo Mini Plus, but we're going to talk about the Miyoo Mini today because this is somewhere between the Miyoo Mini and the Miyoo Mini Plus because it has a smaller screen than the Miyoo Mini Plus, but a bigger screen than the Miyoo Mini. So it's somewhere between the two, but I'm just going to compare it to my Miyoo Mini because this is my customized device, another sort of collector's item for me. I went with these beautiful gold buttons, so it's clear with gold on the underside, so it's got this translucent gold effect. And so you can watch my video on this. I really got excited about this. The thing is, I don't know, I'm not as excited about my TRIMUI mod, and I think it's because of those yellow buttons. So let's forgive it for that. If I just had these in black and then I had this in purple, I think I would have been a happy camper. But apart from the mod, the Miyoo Mini is clearly a lot smaller, and it has these lovely inline shoulder buttons. This is an exceptional everyday carry. However, this and the Miyoo Mini Plus, they do not feel as solid as the TRIMUI Brick. And I think that's why they called it the Brick, because they wanted, in their sort of marketing of it, to point out that this thing is a brick. It's solid. It's solid. So let's talk about the software quickly, because Garlic OS is exceptional on the Miyoo Mini and the Miyoo Mini Plus. What they've done is they've got this, the menu initially was a menu button. This now brings you into the game switcher. And so it immediately takes you to the game picker where you can pick your most recent games. It automatically takes a screenshot of the game. That is fantastic. When you're in a game, you press and hold it and it'll take you back to the menu. Or you can just do a single press and it'll take you to the game switcher. Or you can do a double press and it'll quickly switch you back to the last game you were playing. All focused on making it super easy to get in and out of a game. That is the goal of our operating system. And then it's got a unified look and feel. Okay, I've got TechDweeb's operating system on here, but everything, absolutely everything is controlled by the theme designer. And so everything has the same look and feel. I think there's one logo here that doesn't work for him there, but everything else, settings, it's all unified by the theme designer. And so it really does have a lovely unified look and feel. And so I could, instead of using TechDweeb's theme, I could find something with the purple look to it and everything would just look uniform. Okay, then we're going to power them on. Back in our game. Loading. Installing something, which it does every single time it loads. And we're back in our game. That is quite a big difference. And that's something I just wanted to point out, because when I was playing, I noticed it and I thought I'd better make a big deal of that. Because I don't usually complain about loading times, but that is quite a big difference. Miyoo Mini is 108.9 grams. TRIMUI brick is 163 grams, so a considerable amount heavier. Build quality, the Miyoo Mini definitely loses here. I've always felt like this is a little bit delicate. My previous one was starting to get some wear and tear, and I just stopped using it because I didn't want it to die, because it's one of the first devices I bought for the channel. And so, yeah, and now that I have a second one, I feel a little bit more brave with this one, but still, like, this one went up Table Mountain with me, but it is not the most durable per se. I mean, people's screens have popped out in the past, whatever. But the TRIMUI brick feels very, very durable, and that is an everyday carry thing. On the other hand, they both have auto resume, and that is a good everyday carry thing. So in terms of EDC, I think the Miyoo Mini actually loses to the TRIMUI brick because of the brick's durability. So what do you think? Do you think I saved the TRIMUI brick with my Darkwing Duck theme? If you think that I didn't, then just get off the channel and unsubscribe twice. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.